All right, this is Critique by Beckstead, and we are critiquing Leonard and his 5 nice images. All right, cool, let's get going. The first thing I want to do is straighten this image up a little bit and crop it, all right? I always want to level the image, but I've noticed with this image that there's a lot of distortion when it comes to millimeter ranges, so leveling is not always simple procedure. Instead of using the leveling tool, I'm just going to come down. First thing, I don't think you necessarily need these dots up here. I want to come down and really balance this image out. You have one odd window over here that you don't necessarily need. I'm going to come to here, and I'm going to come to about here. All right, now that's good. I'm going to try to level it by sight a little bit, because before I tried to level it a little bit with the leveling tool, and there's just too many odd angles here. So we're going to try something about around there. Okay, that's not bad. We'll stick with that for now. All right. The most important assets of this image, okay, is composition, which I like, and light, which is nice. Okay, I always like window light. The most important elements to critique would be crop, which we just did, pose, and starting with a better file. We'll explain that. So the biggest problem that I have right now is that the position of the bodies and where they're at. I don't think having them right in this area and he in this area, okay, is really helping you. The reason why is because the background is there's so many textures in the background, it's so chaotic in the background that the silhouettes are getting lost with all the textures and leaves and lines. I call it chaos, all right? It's not really a great position for the bride and groom. Now, if you would have had the bride and groom either both here, or separated, her here, him here, looking at each other, backed off a little bit from the wall so that they would get a little bit of that window light, okay? Then I believe that you would have had them isolated in a much better location, all right? They would have been in a much stronger spot. Right now, I believe that you really have them in a position where it's just not working very well. Okay. Your other truly big problem is this. Let's bump up the exposure some, because my first idea would, let's bump the exposure up and let's like brighten the background a little bit more. And that's one way of losing some of that texture, is brightening it. And I don't mind a really bright sky in the background and in the windows. I think that can look pretty ethereal and nice. The problem, though, we're having as a whole is you're starting with kind of a poor file, okay? Your file, their faces aren't being shown. It's a little bit messed up. Her face is not all that great. There's a lot of noise involved in this image because you were shooting in pretty high ISOs in dark situations, and your file is not the best in the world. I wouldn't say that this is a very good printable image at all. So you're starting out with a file that's not all that great. Now, I do this all the time. I mess up on an image, it looks pretty cool, and then you go back and you look on the monitor and you're like, oh, there's a lot of problems. Maybe a little bit of motion by accident. You blurred some of the the capture. Or you didn't get things quite level, and you haven't the coloring isn't very good. There's a lot of things you start off when the base is not all that great, but all in all, the positioning of the couple is not very good when it comes to how they show on this image. And so already you're starting off with not the greatest image in the world. And then the base image when I go up and take a look and even put some more exposure into it, it's not that strong. So I would say go back to this location, and I would say start again. I say go back to this location and try a different way. Right? Try a couple different ways. Pose them in different spots. Throw a little flash in there and to light them up. Throw a little video light on them, light them up. Try different concepts in this area and learn from this image. Go back and shoot it again. I always find that's very powerful to say, all right, that image wasn't that great, but if I went back and did it again, I can make it much better. So, all right, let's go on to the next shot. Okay, this image has a very ethereal background, a very, very harmonious, wonderful, impressionistic background. I love this. I mean, just gorgeous background, really, really nice. Um, I know what you're trying to do when you added this thing here in the foreground, okay, this fence. But I really don't feel that the fence is necessarily helping you. In fact, I feel the fence and the fence lines are really taking away from the harmony of this image. Okay, the harmony of the image is really truly those wonderful clouds and that's just soft, wonderful textures of the grass. And that would have been such a great place to use that alone. You don't always have to add a lot of things in your composition if you already have some wonderful elements already there. You don't need to keep adding and adding and adding. Sometimes those things will distract, and this one, I believe this foreground really distracts. There are times when this works really well, and I don't believe at this shot it really did. Now, the most important assets of this image is location, I believe. The pose and the foreground elements are the problems, and I think the pose is also a big problem here. Okay, first thing, okay, most women don't want to appear bigger than their guys. Okay, that's just normal kind of portrait and wedding concept here. Kind of the rules saying that women don't necessarily want to appear to be taller than men. It could be on the same plane, or you know, the guy could be bigger, which is more traditional. But right now you have the way you placed her, and her being in these stiletto heels has made her larger than him. Okay, taller than him, and she's in front blocking a lot of him in not the best pose in front of him. So she also is appearing a little larger than she really needs to be. And he's appearing, because he's behind her, he's appearing much smaller all the way around. Thinner, smaller, like, and I have to say it, I don't necessarily think a couple will really like this image in the long run, because traditionally it's not really working out in your pose. Another thing is, the pose is very stable and kind of normal and kind of straight, rigid. And I'd like to see the passion and the relaxation from this couple come in. Sometimes we get so caught up in a pose that we forget to just let them kind of work into a pose and have fun with themselves. So a lot of times I'll say to them, you know, hey, just lay down in the grass right there and just get in your own natural pose and have fun, kiss a little bit. And next thing you know, they'll be working it out. She'll be getting a little lower than him. She'll be leaning into him, more traditional, and he'll be embracing her. And then you can go there and fix hands, fix their body a little bit, change the little few things like that. Get them to work it out first. And then you can tell them, you know, prompt them to go sit down and do something like that. Then you wouldn't need that foreground, and you could get them relaxed in this impressionistic place. So first thing, I just don't think this pose is really helping you. Okay, it's very rigid, and she's in front, and she's taking up a lot of visual space, and I don't think she's going to necessarily appreciate the position you put her in right here. Okay, that's important. All right, that's really important that that she appreciates this image, and I don't think either one of them are in the long run. They'll tell you right up front maybe they like it, but later on they'll go, why didn't he just have us lay in the grass or just do something else? All right, well, let's go on to the next one. I believe that you should go back to this location, and I think you should make it more harmonious, more wonderful, more spontaneous, and less rigid and less less of that. Okay, all right, awesome. Let's go to the next one. Okay, the best part of this image, okay, is this girl and this girl, right? Now that's totally true, and we can see it. The most important assets of this is emotion. Emotion is really great here, all right? The things that I like to critique about is bad angle, including people in bad light, millimeter range, is another thing, and sometimes no matter how much you like it, it doesn't work. So let's talk about that a little bit. All right, they were looking great. This girl and your millimeter range and her smile, there's not really much of a smile there, and your millimeter range is really making her much bigger than she really is. Millimeters can actually enhance weight instead of subtract weight. Okay, you can use millimeter to do that. You can use millimeter ranges to subtract weight, actually, by the way you work the image. Okay, there's a lot of great books and DVDs and stuff on the internet that you can buy or even investigate on the internet about how to pose people that are a little bit bigger. I know this is a photojournalistic shot. This is not a pose, but necessarily, but in the long run, though, every image that you take at a wedding has to feel good, has to be strong. All right, otherwise I wouldn't even show it. So this woman right here is not going to be happy with this picture at all, not even the slightest. I can tell you that. And in fact, these girls are going to probably wonder why she's in the picture. Well, now here's another girl back here that also is not really working. I mean, would you pose her like that? No, you wouldn't pose her like this, because this is really not a pose. But when it really comes down to it, these are the things that reflect on you, on how people perceive your work. When you show them like this, they're going to go, oh, they're really going to see the bad parts of it first before they actually see the really fun parts. And if they see the fun parts, those bad parts are really going to distract to the point where they're going to not like the image at all. So first thing we could do is we could crop this girl out, okay? So we can come to there, and we can come maybe to about right here, okay? Something like that, right? Now, you have a shot. This could work. You need to figure out a way, all right, to eliminate this girl in Photoshop if you think it's important, meaning that is this image so important that you should keep it and you need to get rid of her, in Photoshop, which you really need to, without getting rid of her. I don't think, because she's central now. Okay, this girl back there is central, all right? Then if you don't get rid of her, then I don't believe this image is worthwhile keeping. If you get rid of her, it would be worthwhile keeping. Now, I do like the direction of flow of laughing going this way. I do kind of wish we could see what they were laughing with or at. Okay, probably with. Somebody's telling a joke or having fun, something physical's happened. But the only way I feel that this image can work is if you actually darken the background a lot or take her out in Photoshop. Okay, so I like the shot, but remember, photojournalism doesn't necessarily mean just taking a shot and just show every single thing you have. It's about editing out the ones that aren't working or fixing the ones that aren't working. And if you don't allow yourself to fix it, this image I would edit out. Okay. All right. The most important assets here are mood and abstraction. I love abstraction. It's very, very cool. I think you've really experimented here. So the most important part of the elements of critique are crop to get rid of the repetitive space and bright spots. Okay, but the mood and the elements, the moods are wonderful here. Let's first thing, let's crop. All right. Because I don't necessarily think that you need all this black space. It's not necessarily helping you. Let's put this into a vertical. Okay, we don't need all that black space. Vertical is fine. Okay, great. Now we have a good triangular flow, a good V flow, a triangle basically happening here. Some people would do a circular flow happening, which is nice. You have a good movement from here to here, from there to there. What I appreciate about what you did was you experimented. You tried something different. Keep doing that. Keep trying things that you don't normally do. I really appreciate that. I love the black and white. I like the mood of it. I like your eyes closed. I like that. It's a good feeling of your eyes being closed because it adds to the abstraction and the mood of what's going on here. I see that this is a reflection. And I see that you use the framing of her on the left and moved us to the right. And I think that it has a wonderful feel to it. I feel, though, that these flowers here, and perhaps these flowers here, are a little bit too bright, okay? To tone them down a little bit so they're not in competition. Right now, they're drawing us downwards, okay, and not taking us back up, right? So you want this. This is by far your most important part. This might be your second most important part. I don't know about this right here. You might want to consider messing around with this a little bit, maybe doling it down, maybe taking it out. Play with that. I'm not sure exactly if you need it or not. So darken this a little bit, darken this just a little bit. See how that works, okay? Sometimes I give a critique, but until I actually do it, and that takes a little bit of time in Photoshop, then I won't know sure if it will really work. So here, I think you should try it and see if you like it, and you have a great shot here. Very, very cool. All right. The mood of this piece, I don't know. I want to say it's darker. You know why? It's because it's black and white instead of night. Okay, so that always gets me into the mood of that things are a little darker and all that. But she's got a smile. Okay, so the smile and the spin seems kind of fun and happy, kind of against the mood of the dark and black and white piece that you have here. So I think there's a mismatch of moods happening here. Okay, I don't feel that this type of fun, light, and airy spin with her smile is working well in this location and at this time of day. Diamond night, I would prefer it to be in the daytime, in somewhere a little more fun, like in the grass or somewhere else where it'd be a little more light and airy, a little more colorful, all right, which would be good. It could be black and white in the daytime, but there's sun coming, and we feel that the mood's a little more light and airy, which is what she's doing now. She's kind of having fun and doing that. But she's doing it in a place that doesn't really make sense, all right, to the viewers. Why is she here kind of in the middle of the street? That's what it seems like. I know she might be on a sidewalk, but she might be in the middle of the street, and she's spinning, right? That's just the juxtaposition of bride and this background is actually not quite working here, I don't think. The spin is a lot of fun. I love that you're using motion, okay? What I love the best about your best asset of this image is experimentation. I love that you're experimenting and you're trying something different. I appreciate that very much. It's just that I think that you should experiment in this type of vein, this type of thing, in a lighter area place, just something prettier, something more unusual, okay? But if you wanted this in a darker place, then maybe you needed her not smiling, okay? And maybe your lighting need to be a little different, and maybe your background need to be a little different, maybe down an alleyway, something more interesting in the background. Right now, she's in the dead center of the composition, and she's center, and there's not much else going on, okay? So, I think that if you wanted to, you can improve this a little bit with a crop, but I think really, when it comes down to it, you ought to take this kind of concept to a different place, okay? All right, well, thank you, Leonard. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. This is Critique with Beckstead, and I hope that I helped. And please submit some more because your work is going to get better and better all the time. Awesome. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.